Welcome to the Fort Collins Fellows podcast. From Colorado State University to New Belgium Brewery and the hundreds of miles of hiking and biking trails, Fort Collins has earned its well-deserved reputation as one of the top places to live in the United States. Your hosts, Patrick and Chris, were born and raised in Fort Collins. Patrick owns and runs Soukup Real Estate Services, a top-rated real estate brokerage company here in Fort Collins. Chris is the co-owner of the Murphy Whitlock Group, a top-rated residential mortgage broker based out of Fort Collins. Now join the fellas as they uncover the stories, places, and people that make Fort Collins so exceptional.
Well, we got a great episode for everybody. As you know, Patrick and I, as we get into election seasons, we like to bring on candidates. Basically, we ask them questions because we don't really know anything, and we feel like this is a good opportunity for our viewers and our listeners to get educated on what's going on in our local community. And we are thrilled today to have Dawn Downs. Now, Dawn is running in the 8th Judicial District for the, make sure I get this right, District Attorney in Larimer and Jackson counties. Correct. You are the first female and unaffiliated candidate to run. Surprised you're going unaffiliated. Both these parties seem like they know what they're talking about, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Dawn, thank you to the Fort Collins. Thank you for joining us on the Fort Collins Fellows podcast. Great to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you.
Perfect. And you know, this is the power of LinkedIn. We just need to shout out right here. I found you on LinkedIn. I say, hey, do you want to come on this little podcast? And you were awesome. And you said, I'd love to. So we really thank you for doing that. I think I want to start out, and I was thinking about this. I go, what does the district attorney do? I know, I mean, obviously attorney, and you guys are looking to prosecute the bad guys and everything like that. But I mean, we've had Chief Swoboda on, Chief of Police of Fort Collins. We've interviewed Jenny Arndt, the mayor of Fort Collins. She's the only one that's come on twice. So we've got like Patrick and I feel like we have a good sense of how Fort Collins and the community runs. But Dawn, why don't we just start out, and we'll get into your background too, but let us know, like, what is the role of the district attorney and why are you running for district attorney? Let's start right there.
So the district attorney plays a really important role in our community for safety and justice. So the district attorney represents the people of Larimer and Jackson County, and we prosecute criminal cases and violations on behalf of the state of Colorado. So violations that are state laws, and we prosecute those here in our community. The prosecutor's role is really vital for our community safety. We work with law enforcement, but we also work hand in hand with victims and our community members to make sure that people feel that their voices are heard and that justice is sought for them. We hold offenders accountable for their actions when they commit the crimes, but we also offer a lot of paths to recovery. We offer treatment and solutions for offenders. And there's also accountability. We also hold people accountable for those actions when, you know, they're harming our community members, and making sure that justice is served for those people, both justice for victims and offenders. So, right, we want to make sure that everyone's rights are upheld, and that's our role, is to make sure that we're seeking truth and justice in every case.
Now, this is multiple stupid questions coming from me today, but like, are there how many prosecutors are there? Like, you're obviously would be the lead prosecutor, but like, what is the makeup of the prosecution team within Larimer County? Like, how many lawyers are part of that? Or are you basically the one handling all the cases and then you delegate them down, or how does that work?
So in Larimer, in Jackson County, in the 8th Judicial District, there are currently 42 attorneys. So that includes the elected DA. So there's the elected DA and then 41 other attorneys in the office. The office here in our community has about 103 people that work in the office total. So we support both communities. And then all of the people go to court, and the attorneys anyway go to court and prosecute cases, including the elected DA.
Okay. And do you oversee those 41 other attorneys?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes. So the elected DA is, you know, the lead of and head of the office to help, you know, kind of lead, set some of the policy and parameters and, you know, where the office is going to be headed to make sure that we're getting that justice for people.
Gotcha.
Help us understand, you know, a position like this being voted on versus appointed, and why it's important for it to be voted on versus like an appointment.
Well, I think that people, we need to always make sure that there is some sort of democracy and people's voices are heard. And if someone is at the helm and not doing a good job, then our community members need to have a voice in that to say we need something different and we need change. And that's actually why I'm running, as I think that we do need change and people need the ability to have their voices heard through voting.
And you're running up against I just have to make sure I had it down. Gordon McLaughlin, right? He was
Correct.
elected in 2020. I saw that you got enough signatures to get on the ballot, which is awesome. Is it just the two of you?
It is.
Running?
There's
Okay.
no Republican running, so it's just the two of us.
Just the two of you. And so what is your, I know you talk about safety, justice, and accountability on your website, and we'll kind of go over those in more depth. But I guess, what haven't you liked about what Gordon has done and what the office has done over the last 4 years?
Sure. I'm running because I think we need some change. So I worked in the district attorney's office for just under 15 years for two former district attorneys and then the current district attorney and Mr. McLaughlin. And in my opinion, the way that things are happening in that office are very politically motivated and run. And I'm running because I don't think that politics should play a role in that office and in the decisions that are made. I think we need to just focus on the job at hand, which is keeping our community safe and, working with victims and seeking justice for them. So, the turnover has been really difficult. There's been significant turnover in the current district attorney's office. So since he took office, 97% of those 42 attorneys have left.
Oh,
And 41 of the 42 attorneys have left. And that's pretty significant and devastating, but it's devastating and what impact it has on cases. So what you see is there's kind of a revolving door of attorneys, and the cases are now languishing in the system longer because they have to continue to start over and start over and start over with a new attorney. So the caseloads have increased. The time to completion of those cases has doubled since 2017. And the time to completion of those cases has doubled, and that impacts justice for victims. They're not getting justice during that time frame when now their case is taking 200 days to reach conclusion. But it's also impacting our offenders. They are not getting treatment. They're not getting the opportunity to have that, those classes and treatment that we want to provide to get them to make better decisions and help them. So, everyone is really struggling with the turnover, but also the policies. I think we need to have a better commitment to balance and not just offering opportunities, which I do think are very important and significant. All of these people are going to be living in our community. They're our neighbors, our friends, our family members. We need to make sure that we're offering them those capabilities. But we also need to make sure that at the end of the day, that people are held accountable if need be, and that we have to have better balance than we have right now under the current district attorney.
yeah.
And I don't know the growth of Jackson County, but I know Larimer County has seen significant growth since 2017, 2020. I mean, since the kind of the dates that we've discussed. And I was actually in the same building for a decade as the public defender and saw them move from the second floor to absorbing the second and third floor to needing the second, third, fourth, like the growth of the public defender because of the growth of the community. And then obviously with just increased population, you have increased offenses. It's just part of the deal. And so I'd have to imagine it's something similar with the DA of, our population grows, our caseload grows. And so there's just compounding impacts of turnover. Are you seeing that specifically, the amount of cases just kind of skyrocket due to the population growth of the areas?
It's actually the overall number of cases has not grown significantly. What's grown is the number of open cases. So, when they're not reaching conclusion, then those cases are stacking up. So the number of open cases have increased significantly, but not actually the number of filed cases. I will say that just in terms of the world and how things are and transparency, there's a lot of work that has changed in the office. So although there may not be significant caseload growth, the use of body cams in every single case, that compounds the amount of work exponentially when it used to just be reading a case file. And now it's watching hours upon hours upon hours of multiple body cams for every single incident. And so, the work has increased, although the case volume has not. And so actually with I would say with our population growth, we haven't seen a significant caseload increase. We have seen an increase in the number of violent crimes over the last year. Yet they're at 5 and 6 year highs, and violent crime case filings. And that is something that we need to pay attention to. And that's, again, one of my main reasons I'm running, is that we need to look at violent crime. We need to take a different approach. We need to hold those offenders accountable. While violent crime is at an all-time high for the last 5 or 6 years, the sentences for those violent crimes that keep those offenders out of our community, like community corrections and even DOC, are at an all-time low. And I'm not saying we need to send everybody to prison. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. But, we do have a lot of violent crime in our community occurring, and we need to make sure that those people are off our streets so that we can be safe.
Yeah, you mentioned
seen those violent crime offenders repeat as far as the counter to the, shorter stints in correction facilities?
There's actually, I would say, a lot of previous offenders. It's not, and it's from all over the state. It's from all over the country, right? We have people coming here, but I would say that as a prosecutor over the last 18 years of my career, the amount of people that we see in the system with significant criminal history has significantly risen.
Well, I just think about that shooting in Old Town a couple of weeks ago, early morning hours. I mean, right there, right on Remington. Don, obviously you guys are a lawyer, you got to follow the laws. Are there certain laws that have been passed in Colorado that for the average, person living here like Patrick and myself that aren't aware of, that we should be aware of? Or are there certain laws that you would like to have maybe, I don't know, adjusted or rewritten, or like, what is your thoughts on the current kind of status of like Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, Jackson County? And because I guess my thought is like, we have more open cases. Okay, not as many cases. That's not the right word, quality, but the types of crimes are getting worse and worse. Okay, more violent. But what are your thoughts on the current laws that we have in our system? And is it basically Colorado, like Fort Collins just follows what Colorado passes, or is there local county laws that impact your decisions and kind of how we live our lives in Fort Collins?
Well, the district attorney's office actually just prosecutes crime that are based in the state of Colorado. So all crime in the state of Colorado. Yeah, we don't have our own local ordinances. So the municipalities, a lot of towns and municipalities like the city of Fort Collins, city of Loveland, they have their own rules and regulations. But the DA's office is only for the state laws that we're talking about. Okay. So they are across the state, apply across the state equally. There's a lot of things, good and bad, that have changed. But I will say that my significant concern is the decrease in accountability and I'll say defelonization, right? Dropping a lot of things from felonies to misdemeanors, I think has significantly impacted what we're seeing in our community. It also has impacted, safety. The thing that I'll say the law that recently changed in the last few years that has really impacted us violent crime wise is possession of a weapon by a previous offender. So people who have prior felony offenses are not allowed to have guns under the law. Mm-hmm. But it used to be across the board, anyone who had a firearm after they were convicted of a felony was a felony offense. And now it's not, only in some limited circumstances. It is still a felony offense if you have a prior offense for something that's aggravated or a crime of violence, something of that nature. But we've really reduced the amount of gun offenses for people who have shown that through their previous history that maybe they are not people that we want to be having, access to weapons, but it's no longer.
Seems like common sense.
No longer a crime. And, the state also, I'll say a few years ago, they moved a lot of the felony cases down to misdemeanor level, and things like motor vehicle theft. Well, then what did we see in Colorado? We saw that Colorado was number one in the country for motor vehicle theft, because there is no deterrence when, the crime has a possible penalty of some probation, fines, classes, that sort of thing. There's really not as big of a penalty. So I think the state is now seeing the impacts of that, and they're now starting to come back in this last legislative session to increase those penalties again, saying maybe this wasn't a good idea. And I agree, in some of those cases it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't say across the board that it was all bad. So there are some things that we have to look at our current society and where we are, and that the laws of the past may not fit where we think that they should anymore. And so I think it's good to continue to look at them. My concern is the shift towards getting away from protecting our victims in our community.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Coming into the DA's office, if you're voted in, how are you going to maintain more attorneys sticking with the DA's office versus the 97% turnover?
For me, it comes down to, creating a culture and a community that people want to be there. They need the support. I intend to focus inward on the DA's office and not down at the legislature or something else. We really need to focus on what is our job here in our community first and foremost, and getting that right. And so what I plan to do is to work with people, to do a lot of training. There's a lot of attorneys, right? With the 97% turnover, there are a lot of new attorneys, and they are doing the best job that they can with the tools and resources that they have. But we need to do better, and we need to get them more training and more sources. We need to be with them in trials. And so I plan to just really create a culture and environment that people want to be in and thrive. It's hard work. It is very hard work. And not everyone wants to do that kind of work, but we need to support the people who do. And we need to also create, kind of a collaborative culture with our community. And from my past, that's very important to me. I like to collaborate with a lot of our community partners, with law enforcement, because we have to support each other. This is not the DA's office, cannot do all this by ourselves. We have to work together. And so I think, just having that support, a lot of relationships have been damaged over the last 3 years and 4 years. And we need to rebuild those relationships to keep the office in a good place and moving forward, and a place that people want to stay and work to help our community.
Yeah, you got to imagine with that. And then my thought too was when you're talking about the body cam footage and all that, the hours it takes to go through that, like, is there funding issues? Like, do you need more staff? And, you watch the old 90s TV shows and they're just writing down a file. Yeah, this guy did this, and, throws it on a desk. But I just can imagine the funding and the staffing has to be there to support these prosecutors so they can do their job. And it's fascinating how long these cases are staying open. That's the one thing. And that turnover, it's just like blows my mind that 97% have left. But Dawn, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and go back to, your background, where you came from. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your family. And, I'd like to talk about, I'm on your website right now. You created the Criminal Impact Team in 2019. You co-founded the Larimer County Threat Assessment Group in 2021. We'll kind of go through that, but give us a little, who is Dawn Downs? Like, where did you come from? Tell us a little bit about yourself in a personal matter.
Well, I'm a Northern Colorado native, actually, born and raised in Greeley, and I grew up there, and I left for undergrad. I went to undergrad in Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff. And then I came back and lived in Fort Collins for a few years, and went to law school. And when I went to law school, I left to go to Whittier in college in California, and went there for 2 years. And then I finished my last year at CU. I came back and finished my last year here, knowing that this is where my home is. All my family's here, and Colorado is my home. So after law school, I actually went to law school to be a prosecutor. It's been a passion and a dream of mine since high school. And so that's my path that led me here. And after law school, the DA's office actually wasn't hiring at the time. And so I thought, oh, well, what else should I do? And, I decided to give it a try and to be a defense attorney and learn the law from the other side. And I am forever grateful for that opportunity. I was a defense attorney in Fort Collins for a local law firm for about 2 years, just under 2 years. And it was an invaluable experience as a prosecutor. These are people, they're our community members, our family members, and you see the ripple effects that crime has, not just on the offender, but also everyone around them. And, these are not just a file. So that was a really valuable experience for me. And then the DA's office was hiring. So I was lucky to get a job and worked under Larry Abrahamson. And then I worked under Cliff Riedel for his 2 terms, and then also under our current district attorney until October of 22. And then in October of 22, I left to look at some different options and availability of different things and learn some different law, but also to make sure that this is really the path I wanted to do. I was thinking about running at that point in time, and I wanted to make sure that this is really the right path for me, but also for my family. I have a 10-year-old son that I'm raising here in our community, and it's really important to me that this is the right thing for him and for myself and for our community. So I work for the city of Fort Collins right now, and I'm head of the public safety and prosecution section. So I am the legal advisor for the Fort Collins Police Department. I supervise, I supervise our municipal prosecution team, and I advise code enforcement, emergency management, and the public safety aspects for the city of Fort Collins.
Love it.
Get some more.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Excuse me. So. But that's, a little bit about my professional background and my personal background. My family is here, and all of my family is in our community. And I have a real passion and commitment to public safety and to being here. I'm a lifelong resident other than leaving for school. And because of that and my passion for the work, running for district attorney is really important to me, because I don't think that politics should play a role in what's going on in the office and the decisions that are made. Those shouldn't be political decisions on how we keep our community safe. And going back to the justice for victims, those are not political motivated, and they shouldn't be a political position. So that's why I'm running unaffiliated.
I like it.
I love it. Yeah.
I know. I do too.
I liked Chris's intro. It's not like both parties just have it totally in line right now. So
yeah, they're a little iffy.
I appreciate that. And then that's tough too, because, the unfortunate thing of people voting party lines. So I think, an uphill battle, but definitely excited to have you on this podcast, and hopefully people hear what your story is. Was there a moment in your life that you're like, I want to be an attorney? Was it a movie, situation with your family? What was that time that you're like, I want to be an attorney?
Growing up, I grew up in a divorced household, and my mom worked a ton, and she worked in jobs, to provide for our family. Both my parents did. But growing up with my mom, she was really, kind of the gold star for me. And she didn't love her job. And I was like, I'm going to have to go to work every single day for a very, very long time in my life. And I want to love what I do. So what do I like? What am I interested in? And I love the law. I loved, the criminal shows and all of the things that were starting to come out back then. And I had a real interest in it and a passion. So I went to undergrad and pursued a criminal justice degree. And, it's just really been a passion of mine. There was no particular incident or instance that led me here. When I was little, I wanted to be a doctor, an anesthesiologist, actually. And then I was like, oh, well, that's a lot of math. And
I wanted to be an astronaut. And then I did some research.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I should find a different path for me.
That's not going to work. That ain't going to work.
So, yeah. There's still time. That's fine.
I don't know if there's time. I think that ship has sailed. I'm pretty sure that ship has sailed. Yeah. Dawn, I want to, as we kind of wrap everything up, just real quick I'm falling back on a conversation we had with Chief Swoboda. We talked about speeding. As exciting as that was, but it's really interesting to hear us talk about speeding. Obviously, fentanyl and the drugs that are in the community. what is your stance on either one of those? I live off of College and Prospect, and I can tell you, I swear it's like a drag race sometimes right down College Avenue. So I love that they're doing that. And I think there's a new law where the cameras for red lights, they're going to start hitting people for speeding on those. What are your thoughts on the speeding issue in Fort Collins? And then obviously, probably maybe the bigger issue is the fentanyl and the drugs that are coming into the community.
In addition to violent crime, the one thing that I think is a huge plague for our community is the deadly substances like fentanyl that have been introduced at alarming rates. One of the things that I did when the law changed to allow us to charge dealers who were dealing fentanyl that resulted in death.
When did that law change? Sorry. When did that law change?
That changed in 2022, I believe. Or in 2020. Well, I think it was in 2021 it was introduced, and then in 2022, it was enacted.
Okay.
And so in 2022, the law changed to allow the state of Colorado and the district attorney's office to prosecute distribution of fentanyl causing death. And that was a new type of crime. Yes, people die, and yes, people commit crime. They deal drugs, and we had already been doing a lot of that work, right? The law enforcement had been doing investigations, but not a co-occurring investigation into people's deaths when a lot of people would overdose. And so I worked together and I created a team approach that's still used today in our 8th Judicial District, and has had significant success. They've had multiple prosecutions, in fact, more prosecutions in the state than any other DA's office under this new law. But it's a collaborative approach that we created to tackle these significant, deaths and the drug dealing of this poison in our community. And we worked with law enforcement, the coroner's office, people at different agencies and UC Health, and or not just UC Health, but, all the providers to figure out, what do we need? What type of evidence do we need? What type of evidence is out there? And how do we create prosecutable cases in a place that we've never had to do this work before? And it's been very successful. And I continue my commitment to fighting fentanyl. I was actually named Prosecutor of the Year by the Colorado Drug Investigator Association at one time. Yeah, and so thank you. But, combating drugs in our community, guns and violence is a significant focus for me. But, we also have to look at the things that are impacting our community every day. And those are things like you're talking about, like speeding, right? Like the crimes that people are seeing when they walk in downtown Loveland and those areas, or downtown, in any of the communities. What are the things that are impacting our community? We can't say that something is such a low level that we're not going to look at it. The crime there's a reason that things are illegal. There is a reason that there is a law or a code in place to address that behavior. And we need to make sure that all cases are treated, with that respect and that dignity, because while maybe fentanyl isn't encroaching into someone's life, other things are, and impacting the joy that they have. And so we need to make sure that we're looking at everything, not just focused on one type of crime in our community.
I'll get a little personal on here. So as a DA, I know you push for sentencing. Yes, is that correct? You push for what you believe should be the judge should try to put down.
So most cases end in plea bargains, and plea bargains are completely they're 100% offered and derived from the DA's office. So the DA's office creates a plea, and what they believe, taking all the facts into consideration, the criminal history, the facts in a case, all circumstances, and what would be best for both the offender and the community and the victim. And we take all of that into account in creating an offer. And then most of those cases are handled by plea bargain.
That's gotta be super tough.
But yeah, so that actually that kind of ties the court's hands. Sometimes we leave things open to the court in a plea, but it's still really presenting that to the judge. And sometimes it's a completely stipulated plea. So the judge doesn't have any, they can accept it or not, but their hands are tied and saying, yep, we're going to take this sentence and we're going to do this, or no, we're not. So, they also, when things are open or if they go to trial, then the DA's office does come in and make arguments for what they think that the best sentence should be. And then the judge or the magistrate ultimately make that decision.
Okay. My kind of follow-up question to that is like, so my sister, she's a success story of, somebody who drugs her entire life, fell into, doing and dealing meth. And for, years, I hated my sister up until I was 23 or something like that. Long time. But she was, I think afforded the opportunity. She had some very serious sentencing and probations, and she did everything she needed to do. But I think she could have been easily one of an example of, hey, you're going to be put away for a long, long time. And now she's been sober for, I think, a decade, has a wonderful family, very successful, very, very, very proud of her. But it could have very much been a different life for her had the sentencing gone a different route and a little bit more aggressive. And I would say, man, it's got to be super, super tough because she had all the family support you could have ever wanted and all of the stories of how she's an amazing person and all these stories that I'm sure you hear on a daily basis. And how do you differentiate, like, we need to get serious and these sentences need to make an example so that subsequent offenses don't happen throughout our community versus this person needs help getting back on the right track and could be that success story, because it's got to be super tough.
Well, I will start at a place that I think all people have the ability to be a success story, right? I think we need to make sure that we are looking at every person to say, what can the success story be? And how do we get there? That being said, that's making sure that we have the right balance and that we look at what opportunities are available. We have a lot of great, fantastic treatment court options in the 8th Judicial District. We have a drug court. We have a DUI court. We have a wellness mental health court, right? We have, we're soon going to start a veterans court, which is really exciting to start that veterans court this next year. So we have a lot of opportunities, and it's looking at someone's, what led them to this situation and talking to the defense, looking at the facts and circumstances that we do have. And sometimes that's limited, but we look at everything we have available to say what options can we provide and what opportunities. I think our first place needs to always be starting at treatment and what can we do. But then as time goes on, if, the treatment's not working or if people are not ready to engage, then we need to look at different options. We're not talking about, I think historically people think, oh my gosh, we're putting all of these low-level drug users and people who are dealing marijuana in prison. And that's just really not what's going on. We're not putting users away in prison. We're not, putting people who are dealing the marijuana in prison, unless it's like, hundreds of pounds or something. But the people who are peddling things that are killing people in our community, we need to take a hard line on that. And that's not okay. When people are dealing fentanyl and it's killing people, then those people, need to be held accountable for those actions. But there's a lot of opportunities, probation and a lot of other things, community corrections, and deferred sentences are actually an opportunity. Deferred sentences are utilized quite often, and it's a plea bargain that says if you do, treatment and community service or whatever opportunities we're asking you to complete, if you complete them successfully and stay out of trouble, you get this case dismissed off of your record. So it is a win for that person. It's a positive incentive, an outcome, and hopefully one that people can take. But on those higher level violent crime and when people are being killed, then we need to move to the next level and look at what that accountability looks like.
I was just saying accountability. If you give them all these things to do, and whether they do it or not, like at the end of the day, you got to be accountable. Whether you're the DA or you're somebody's doing the treatment, or the suspect who needs to go and do the classes or whatever it is. But Dawn, this has been awesome. I learned a lot, Patrick. Did it? This is.
Well, you'll have to have me back on more than at least twice, because then I can be the number one person.
I do have.
That's right.
One last kind of question on I think people that run in politics are crazy these days, but we do need some better people in the whole system because anyways, what running unaffiliated, like, how are you feeling about your campaign? And like, what is your staff saying in terms of, your chances of winning? Like, how do you, we still got a couple months away. I'm just curious on your thoughts on your campaign and how you're feeling about that. And
Well, I'm feeling
you got
really
my
positive.
vote. You got my vote.
I love it. Thank you. Patrick's still up in the air on that, but
she's looking for commitment. I like it. She's
Don. Here's my social. Here's my license plate. Yeah.
It's interesting, right? I've actually been a registered Democrat and I have been a registered Republican both in my life before.
You're not allowed to do that. You can't do that. That's
different things speak
right
to me. And I've never been a person who's voted down party lines. I'm just not. It's by the issue or the issue or the person, and the politics set aside. That's why I vote. And so being unaffiliated is really being true to who I am, because it should not matter in this role. And it really doesn't matter. I just in who I am and my own personal beliefs on a lot of things, I am truly unaffiliated. And I agree with things on both sides. And I absolutely disagree with things on both sides. So I think we just need to get away from that. And the second
I know. I was just curious. That's.
How it's going? Let me tell you how it's going.
How is it going?
How's it going? I was like, so how it's going is, I think it's going really well. I've had really great feedback and interaction. The best part about running for office for me, I don't love politics, but I do love meeting people, and I love getting out and hearing the stories. I love hearing what's impacting the community and impacting people, because without doing this, I probably would have never heard those stories. I would have never got to know that information. And so it's been really important and valuable piece for me to make sure that people are heard. And I think it's going well. People are excited. People are excited about having a different opportunity and having something different to vote for. They've never had an opportunity to vote for an unaffiliated candidate in this space before.
And we've never had a woman in this role ever.
Never.
And so a little crazy.
It is crazy that we're in 2024 and never had a woman in, running for this office, but I'm excited about both of them, and people are excited. I think, people are done with both sides. Not everybody, but I think people are pulling away from both sides and really wanting something different and something that they identify with. But I'll also say, more than half of our voters in Larimer County are unaffiliated. So about a quarter of the voters are Democrat and a quarter Republican, but more than half are unaffiliated. And I think that that's really, like me and like others in our community, this is where we are right now with politics, is kind of pulling away and being done and just wanting some common sense and something that just represents who we are on a local level.
Well, one last question. If a voter is coming and they're wanting to get a quick blurb of, what should it's 2 days from election day. I'm trying to figure out my ballot. Where should they go to get the best information on both candidates and maybe where they stand and why they should vote for you versus the other? Where would you direct an individual to get that information?
Well, I would say we both have websites. Mine is dawnforda.com. And so if you go to dawnforda.com, you'll be able to read all about me, my background, my passion, and my commitment to our community and what I would like to see. So that's the best way to read about me. Or you can follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook and on Instagram, and see lots of things coming up, and there's a lot of exciting things going on. And so I would love to be able to meet with people at any of the events and community events that we have. So I would love to just connect and reach out. My phone number is on my website. My email's on my website. People sometimes think, oh, is your party, is everybody helping you who's responding? And sometimes they do help me, but often I try to interact with every single person who reaches out to me, because it's really important.
We'll make sure to link those in the show notes.
Yeah,
Patrick. And so if anyone is interested in finding out information or wanting to connect, those will be available.
Perfect. You can also donate on my website.
There you go.
Donate and volunteer. I'm on your website right now. dawnforda.com. Don, we end every episode. Fort Collins being the mecca of microbrews in the country and the world. Do you have a a favorite little patio spot when you're done prosecuting criminals? You'd like to go have a cold beer or beverage here in town?
I am
brewery?
I'm a fan of Mash Lab.
Oh,
And I
hey,
do love Mash
we haven't
Lab.
heard that one too often. That's good.
I like well, and that's in my part of the neck of the woods of the county. But I do love Mash Lab. I'm a huge seltzer drinker, and so I really love seltzers.
Okay. Those are like, I don't know if
Rock Coast Brewery also has great seltzers that they make. So Rock Coast in Loveland is a good place. It's
like
an AKA
name
Kitchen.
drops that we don't hear too often. I love
Dude,
it.
we haven't heard
AKA Kitchen. I like all the little
Dawn.
obscure places.
Wow, that was good. That was good.
Great. Well, Dawn, thank you so much for coming on. Good luck for you to you and
Yes.
your campaign over the next couple of months, and definitely we'll follow up, and maybe there'll be a celebratory drink or seltzer.
I would love to celebrate and come back on and talk all the things when we're done.
Perfect.
Very cool.
Thanks, Dawn.
Thanks, Dawn.
Appreciate it. Friends of the podcast, thank you so much as always for tuning in. We thank you so much for your support. And just so you know, my amazing co-host Patrick Soukup over there, he is the founder, started Soukup Real Estate. If you ever need any questions about buying or selling or just want a market report on your existing home, reach out to Patrick. His team is absolutely fantastic. Born and raised in Fort Collins. His information is right there on the page. Strongly recommend reaching out.
And same for you, Chris. As if you guys are looking at buying or refinancing a home here in Northern Colorado, there's nobody better to reach out to than the Murphy Whitlock Group. And Chris Murphy is going to take incredible care of you. So do not hesitate to reach out, ask questions. He is in no rush, no hurry. So give him a chance. And I think he's going to do a great job for you. Thank you for watching.